assistant editor Vincent Verhei. Joining me as always, FO editor-in-chief Aaron Schatz, FO contributing writer Bryan Knowles. We are here to talk about the stats and data and facts and figures from a chaotic week in the NFL. And I don't think there's anything more chaotic than we'll talk about some data here about the chaos in general. 12 of the 15 games decided by one score. That's tied for the most in a single week in NFL history. The second day in the history of the league, 3 game-winning touchdowns on the final play of the game, with Chandler Jones in Las Vegas, the most chaotic. Rayshon Jenkins for Jacksonville and Jeremy McKinnon for Kansas City. First time in NFL history, 3 teams have come back from 17-plus point deficits to win in the Jaguars, the Bengals, and, of course, the Minnesota Vikings, which brings us to our lead topic for the day, the biggest comeback in NFL history.
They can't keep getting away with this. I think
that's really incredible. I have no idea what to even say about the Vikings anymore. They can't keep getting away with this.
I think what we can say about the Vikings is that they are going to be historically notable. There are plenty of average teams every year. The Vikings are one of those average teams. There are teams that outperform their DVOA every year. But now the Vikings not only have one of the craziest wins of all time over the Bills, but now they also they're in the record books. They came back from a 33-point deficit, the largest one in NFL history. The teams leading by 30 or more points before Saturday were 1,548 wins, 1 loss, and 1 tie. You're not supposed to come back from that. And we were all making the same jokes after the first half of finally, the Vikings have shown who they are. Hey, it's Jeff Saturday on Saturday. What a brilliant combination we have going on. And then the second half happened, and it was just a bombshell.
And the thing is, given how the Colts have played over the rest of the season, I would have bought the idea of the Vikings coming back with 21 points. Oh my God, the Vikings made it a game. The fact that they came back all the way, and they came back all the way despite not being perfect. They had drives that ended in failure, and they still came back all the way. It was insanity.
Hitchhiker's Spy points out in the comments that, in the second half, we just switched to making jokes about Matt Ryan. 28-3, not anymore. No, we'll remember 28-3 forever. But this just adds to Matt Ryan's legacy of blown second half leads.
Yeah.
He's been the quarterback for 2 of the 8 biggest comebacks in NFL history have gone against him.
I feel bad for Matt Ryan. But Ryan brought this on himself a little bit because the Colts lost this game with bad offense. The Vikings did not win this game with good offense. I ran the VOA splits by half. In the first half, the Colts were at 108%. This is without opponent adjustments. And the Vikings minus 122. In the second half, the Vikings were plus 72, and the Colts were minus 77. But if you break down what the Vikings were, they were plus 17 offense and 58 defense, minus 58 defense. In other words, preventing Indianapolis from scoring. So the Indianapolis offense lost this game a lot more than the Indianapolis defense.
Do we think Jonathan Taylor going out on the first series helped hurt them at all here? Because I think if they had, I know running backs don't matter, et cetera, but I do think that if they had him, they might be able to, extend it. Because all they needed to do was extend a couple more of those drives. Because again, the Vikings had to come back from 33 points.
Maybe a little bit. I mean, again, running backs don't matter that much, and Zach Moss and. I think it's the state of their offensive line in general. They have a rookie left tackle, and other players have not played as well as they had in past years. I mean, it's not like Taylor has good numbers this year. Taylor's near the bottom of the league in most stats this year.
Well, the other part of this, as we were just talking about before coming on the air, the offense and defense were a big part of it. Special teams also a big part of Minnesota's deficit, actually, in the first half. Indianapolis special teams VOA is 8%. Minnesota's minus 20%. And I believe that also does not include the failed fake punt.
It does not include the failed fake punt. The failed fake punt counts as an offense-defense play. It's one of those sort of Eventually, I'd like to change DVOA to include fakes as special teams plays, but for now it doesn't. But it includes the block punt for a touchdown, and it also includes some very good returns by Dallas. What's his name? Dallas Flowers for the Colts, and one very bad first half punt return by Jalen Reagor that went 0 yards.
So the other crazy thing here before we move on, I think, is just that I was writing about Kirk Cousins' game for Quick Read, which is up now at footballoutsiders.com, and the first and second half splits of quarterbacks in these mega comebacks of 22 plus points at halftime. And as I'm writing it suddenly occurs to me, if they were down 33 nothing at halftime, if they had just thrown in the towel and benched Kirk Cousins, no one would have blamed them. There would have been no controversy. They said this game is done. We're waving that white flag and getting ready for the playoffs. But no, they kept him in there, and they got this crazy ass comeback, and here we are.
Yeah, Cousins threw for, I think he had like 40 passing yards in the first half, and then 417 in the second half. That's one of the crazy. I want to see if that was a historic split, and it isn't. That's usually because you put up huge numbers in the first half, and then you sit on the bench for the fourth quarter. This is not supposed to go this direction.
Right.
Yeah, the Vikings, I don't know what to say about them anymore. They are the first 11-3 team to have a negative DVOA, but it's not like they're at -1. They're at like -11.
Yes.
They're 25th. It's not like the Vikings are 18th. They're 25th now in DVOA, despite being 11-3. And well, I mean, people have said to me, your stats are wrong because how can you think the Vikings are the 25th? I know other advanced metrics seem to have them higher, more like 18th or 19th. And if you ask me how good the Vikings are, yeah, they're probably closer to 18th or 19th than 25th. But what's important is that they're not like what an 11-3 team. There's never been a team. They are possibly going to be the greatest Pythagorean projection overperformers of all time.
Yep.
We'll see what happens in the last 3 games, but there's just I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not like they're winning by the skin of their teeth week after week after week after week after week. I think if you flipped all the one-score games in the league, they'd be dead last in the NFC at the moment because they've only got
and they're
one.
Not. It's not like their one-score wins are mostly we were up by 11, and then the other team scored a late field goal, and that made it 8. Yeah. There are things like Josh Allen fumbled on the 1-yard line with a lead.
Yeah, their season is made of pixie dust and magic, and I suppose we'll see if that can lead them anywhere. It led them to the division title. They are your NFC North champions. They will get a home game, probably against the Seahawks or Lions, and
I don't ever remember a team like this that won the Super Bowl, but I do remember teams that were not to quite this extent that came very close to winning a Super Bowl. Like the 2003 Panthers are comparable, I think. The Vikings are like on another planet, but the 2003 Panthers were sort of similar to this, and the 2008 Cardinals only went 9-7, but they're sort of similar to this too. And the 2008 Cardinals came 2 minutes or less from winning a Super Bowl. Yeah. It is not out of the realm of possibility that the Vikings could win a Super Bowl. Will they? Probably not. I mean, it is very unlikely that the Vikings could be, it's not that unlikely that they could beat the Giants or Commanders or Lions, but it's very unlikely that they would be like the Cowboys and then the Eagles or the 49ers and then the Eagles and then the Chiefs or Bills. This team would have a very hard time running that, but it was not impossible.
Yeah, there's a chance they'll be underdogs in the first round of the playoffs, especially if it ends up being the Lions or someone who gets there. Maybe not
now. I mean, this week they're playing the Giants, and they are 3-point favorites. So they would be favorites to the Giants or the Commanders. But if it's the Lions that they play in the first round, they will be underdogs.
There's a chance at the very least, which is very weird because they still might get that second seed. They might be technically the second best team in the NFC.
The 49ers, we should mention, are the hottest team in the league. Number 1 in weighted DVOA, something like 7 straight games of 50% or higher. Like the 49ers are playing extremely good football. It's hard to see them blow in the second seed.
Well, they currently don't have it. That's the thing. They have the
Oh.
tiebreaker over the Vikings, but they are a game behind. So as long as the Vikings keep doing this, the Niners can't actually
I guess
catch
that's
them.
true.
So eventually the Magic's going to, I'm a 49ers fan, so I was watching that first half like, oh, great, cool. The Niners are going to move in the second seed. Excellent. All right, good times. Now all I need is Matt Ryan to play a normal second half of football. Dang. Okay.
No, it didn't work out. Now, that was the statistically craziest game of the day, but from a artistic, maybe an aesthetic viewpoint, not the craziest, at least not the craziest finish of the day, because that goes to whatever the hell happened at the end of the game in Las Vegas between the Raiders and Patriots. I'm still trying to process this. It's been 48 hours now. Chandler Jones wins the game on a walk-off fumble return touchdown as New England was trying a bunch of laterals that they didn't have to try because the score was still tied.
I'm curious what you guys think. I know how I feel because I'm a Patriots fan. Do you think this weekend was harder on Patriots fans or Colts fans?
Oh, Patriots fans for sure.
Yeah, Patriots fans had hope.
Yeah,
or at least some hope, and I think this game is what knocked it out of him.
I feel like for Colts fans, the season was basically over. So as much as a punch in the gut as that was, the Patriots' playoff chances with a win would have been like 65% or something. Like they got destroyed by this loss.
Yeah, with a win, all they had to do was win. All they really had to do was win one of their last 3 games to make it, because they had got the tiebreakers on the rest of the of the field.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a tough end of road schedule, but beating one of the Bengals, Dolphins, and Bills.
And the other problem is the Colts played bad.
Oh yeah.
The Patriots were just idiots.
Well, and there's a lot to say about this. They never should have been in this position in the first place. They're playing what had been the worst pass defense in the league. The Patriots played so badly on offense that the Jaguars are now the worst pass defense in the league, not the Raiders. So they spent the whole day dumping off and checking down and screens to nowhere. They were only in this game because Derek Carr threw a pick 6. So it never should have been this close. And then that happened. Brian, you've got a list here of is the third ever walk-off fumble return touchdown in NFL history. The last was in 1978, the Holy Roller. Also the Raiders winning, although it was an offensive fumble return. A play so dramatic, they changed the rules.
Yeah, there's no rule you could change to stop this one from happening. This was just one of the all-time brain fart moments in sports. It's right up there with J.R. Smith, forgetting to shoot at the end of that NBA Finals game when 2018 or whatever it was. Yeah. I mean,
this is Merkel's boner.
It is. It's absolutely. This is everyone ending up on second base together. This is, right. Everyone was. It's easy to go to the hyperbole immediately after a play like this happens, like dumbest play ever, worst play ever, et cetera, et cetera. I've spent the last 48 hours just combing my mind, looking back at all the old blooper tapes I used to buy as a kid, trying to figure out like what on earth could possibly compare this to. The Jim Marshall wrong way run for the Vikings back in the day, that is an all-timer, but the Vikings ended up like doing well. That wasn't a game-losing play. It's getting compared to that Colts fake punt from 2015 where everyone shifted over. Hitchhiker's Pie in the comments points out the Miracle on the Meadowlands, which is probably the biggest play in terms of win probability lost in NFL history when the Jets could have just kneeled on the ball and said they ran a play and fumbled and the Eagles turned for a touchdown. This play is going to live forever, isn't it? This play is going to get replayed over and over.
Play of all time. This is the dumbest play of all time. First of all, what were the Patriots even trying to accomplish by running a play? Right? Like
maybe break it.
Just kneel on the ball and go to overtime. The likelihood that you're going to break a 60-yard run is impossible. Second of all, the players, if Belichick is such a great coach, he's supposed to be informing the players not to do things like this. There was no reason to do this. By the way, Ramondre Stevenson had a fantastic game, but he deserves some of the blame too. Because he never should have fumbled. He should have never lateraled to Meyers to begin with.
No.
Now, Stevenson's lateral to Meyers, at least Meyers was right behind him and he knew he could get Meyers the ball. But what if Meyers doesn't catch it cleanly? It's possible the Raiders pick it up. So I think this is on the coaches for calling a play to begin with. This is on Stevenson for lateraling. This is especially on Meyers for lateraling. This is the dumbest play ever because there was no kneel down formation when the miracle in the Meadowlands happened. The kneel down formation was a reaction to the miracle in the Meadowlands. And by the way, the player for what was it, Pasaric, did not fumble on purpose. That was a forced fumble. This was an unforced fumble. This is the dumbest play in NFL history.
And at least Stevenson could say, hey, well, I'm giving the ball to another fast person, and if he misses, everyone's kind of in a big pile right here. Maybe we'll all fall on top of each other. I can at least understand the logic behind there. I don't know what the heck Mac Jones was supposed to do if he got the lateral, even if Chandler Jones hadn't been right there. He's not going to run 60 yards and like break 12 tackles. It's crazy.
All these other bad plays, as cringeworthy as they are, I can at least envision what the player involved was trying to do or he thought might happen. There is no upside to throwing the ball. I think 20 yards is the net value here. 20 yards backwards to Mac Jones in the middle of the field on his own side of the field.
In a tie game.
In a tie game.
Yeah. The only one I could think of that came with the same level of just a horrible decision by a player in the moment was the Leon Lett missed field goal game when the Dolphins kicked the field goal on Thanksgiving and it was short and it got tipped and blocked and Lett went down and touched the ball and gave the Dolphins another shot at the game-winning field goal. And even that is maybe just not fully understanding all the complex rules of a situation like that. This is an all-timer and everyone should be embarrassed. Everyone who is remotely involved with this should be embarrassed.
Leon Lett was just ignorant of the rules. I'm sure he thought it was a live ball and had to recover it. He was wrong, and that's why it's dumb. But he didn't. I don't know.
Meyers said after the game, look, to give him credit, he took full responsibility.
Yes.
He said he knew he was not supposed to lateral the ball, and he was just trying to make a hero play, which is just phenomenally stupid.
Which is and things like this do go on the coaches. Your job as a coach is to make sure your players are aware of the situation and what's going on. And so it is on the coaching staff, maybe not all of them, but somebody should have made it very clear to these guys, we're just going to go to the extra frame. By the way, Bill Belichick was asked why they handed off instead of trying a Hail Mary, and he's bluntly replied that Mac Jones can't throw that far. Well, it's just a Hail Mary. Just bring in Bailey Zappi or whoever. And
Bailey Zappi can't throw that far either. Nobody can.
I guess that's not it then.
I'm also going to say, by the way, call me a homer, that play never should have happened because Keelan Cole was out of bounds.
Also true.
Yep. I can see where
but officials make tiny mistakes all the time. And a tiny mistake by the official is not, a 6-inch mistake off the sideline is not a reason for you to do the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah. No. Man, just the fact that we didn't lead with that somehow is incredible. But that's just what kind of week it was. There was just nonsense everywhere.
Well, a little bit of nonsense, relatively little nonsense compared to what we have talked about. But the Detroit Lions were suddenly on fire. Starting the year 1-6, trying to become the first 1-6 team to come back and make the playoffs since the 1970 Cincinnati Bengals. I'm sure we all remember that team fondly. Brian, talk about the Lions a little bit and how they're doing in DVOA.
All right, the Lions are now 6th in DVOA on the year.
In offense. 6th in offense.
Yes, actually, 6th in offense. Their defense, which for much of the middle of the year was absolutely putrid, is now 22nd in the league and 10th since week 9. They have become a competent team on defense, which when you compile it with their high scoring tendencies on offense, makes them a serious threat. Their defense is now forced to turnover in the last 13 straight games, which is the longest active streak in the NFL. This is, obviously the Eagles are number 1, but of all the other teams in the NFC, this is the team I least want my team to play because the Lions are on fire right now.
Jared Goff is now 2nd in the league in passing DYAR, total passing value. Now, people responded to me when I said this on Twitter with, that shows how stupid your stat is. Okay, small asterisk, which is, I've mentioned this before, I do not have the indoors, outdoors adjustments that are in team DVOA They're not in the individual DVOA yet. So Goff would be a little bit lower if you adjusted for indoors. But it's not that stat is wrong. It's that the Detroit offense is really good this year. And that may not be a statement about Goff as much as it is Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator, and the offensive line and the receivers that they have. But Goff, if you put him in the right situation, people remember 2018. Like, Goff has had really good numbers before if you put him in the right
a Super Bowl quarterback.
Yeah, this is not like, oh, well, if you think Goff's been good, clearly you're wrong. I mean, Goff's been really good. And no, Goff would not be the worst quarterback to finish a season second because Case Keenum was first one year.
Yeah.
Hitchhiker's Pie says, would Jared Goff be the worst quarterback to finish a season second in DYAR? And I mean, I don't know. I guess part that depends. Do you mean second or first? Because Case Keenum was first one year. Eric Kramer was first one year. There have been all kinds of guys who've had one really good year. And Goff was, I don't remember what he was back in 2018, but it was pretty high.
Yeah, I mean, I do definitely think Goff is being helped by the system to a certain extent because, he's getting great blocking. He's got great talent around him. But there are other guys with great talent around him, great blocking, who aren't putting up thousands of DYAR. He's having a rejuvenated season, I think is a fair thing to say. Who knows if that'll continue? And I think if I was Lions, I still might look into getting a developmental quarterback behind him. But Goff has looked fantastic. And the Lions are looking fantastic. This is going to be the first time they haven't finished last in the NFC North since 2017. This is a remarkable turnaround for a team that was we left dead in the water. I remember the first couple weeks of the show, we were like, oh, look at all these positive Lions stats. Look how good they are. Look what a good story is. Oh, here's the defense that's killed them. All right, I guess we can stop paying attention to the Lions now. Here they are.
And they're not just beating scrubs.
Yeah.
They have beaten the Vikings. They've beaten the Commanders. They've beaten the Giants. First time since 2000. They have beaten more than two teams with winning records. And another note on Goff, I'm looking at just raw passing stats to see what he's doing well compared to everyone else. And the one he's doing best is his sack rate. Sack rate of 3.8%, second best in the league behind Tom Brady. That is a big part of DVOA and explains why he's higher in our stats than you might see elsewhere. He's getting a ton of help from his offensive line. He never goes backwards. And keeps them in position to move the chains and pick up first downs.
Yeah, this is the first time, if they finish in the top 10, this will be their first time in the top 10 since they were 10th in 2011. And they're currently 9th, which would be their highest position in DVOA since 1997, when they were 7th. And the Lions' history is an interesting one because their best seasons by win-loss are not their best seasons by DVOA. Their best season by DVOA is 1981 when they were 8-8, and their 10-6 and 9-7 seasons tend to be better than like the year they went 12-4 in 1991, but like got killed by Washington.
Yeah. Honestly, the biggest problem for the Lions right now is that Week 4 loss to Seattle. That is the one big red flag they have now with their chance of getting the playoffs. Because they have to act right now that they're tired of the Seahawks, so they have to do better than Seattle over the last 3 weeks if they're going to get into the playoffs. Because it looks like the Giants are going to get a slot. It looks like the Cowboys are going to slot. There's one wild card slot really available, and they lost a head-to-head match. So as long as the Seahawks can win, if the Seahawks, because the Seahawks end with the Jets and the Rams, and you should expect Seattle to be able to win those games, which means Detroit would have to run the table.
Can you?
I do. I understand why. I understand where you're coming from.
The Seahawks have not been on fire.
The Jets are good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they may still be starting Zach Wilson, and I still trust the Seahawks to be able to win that football game. And the Rams are not good. So
the Rams are not good.
Yeah. I'd be surprised if they beat the Chiefs this week. I will say that. Although, the Chiefs have shown an ability to play down to any opponent that they may encounter.
Also true.
Sleepy Time Junction asks how long Goff's contract goes in Detroit, and I do not know the answer to that question.
I believe there's 2 more years on it, but I will triple check that here real quick.
They signed him to a big deal in LA before they traded him.
Exactly.
Which was one of the reasons the Rams are in such a mess right now. But
I don't have the stat the thing, but the Rams were officially eliminated last night. That ties the post Elway Broncos for the earliest elimination for a Super Bowl champion in history. Goff is signed to the team through 2024, so they got 2 more years after this if they wanted to keep him around.
Yeah. Well, the Lions are on fire. Another team a lot of us have written off for dead that has rebounded somewhat is the Jacksonville Jaguars. They beat an NFC team for the first time in a long time.
First time since 2018, a 20-game stretch without any wins over the other conference. That's the longest drought ever, at least since there have been different conferences to have droughts against. And the AFC South has gotten some unlucky matchups, but they played a terrible Raiders team. I mean, a terrible a Lions team in that stretch. There were games they could win, and just 20 straight losses against the other conference. The Jaguars are breaking all kinds of these crazy records. They had a long losing streak against West Coast teams. They had a long losing streak against the Titans. This year they are breaking all these kinds of like decades long of futility as they've kind of bounced back into competition.
Yeah, they're now 44%. We now give them a 44% chance to win the AFC South. And I have a sneaking suspicion that the Jaguars and Titans are going to be the Sunday night game in Week 18.
Oh, yeah. Good call. Good call.
If I had to pick right now, I'd say the Jaguars catch them. The Jaguars have an easier schedule. They look like a better football team right now.
I'm sure the rest of the AFC is cheering for Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'd much rather play Ryan Tannehill than Trevor Lawrence right now.
Yeah. Now, the other quarterback in this game has been in kind of a slump as Dak Prescott has suddenly become a turnover machine.
Yeah, Prescott now has 11 interceptions on the year because remember he missed a chunk of the beginning of the season. He's dead last in the league with a 3.9% interception percentage. He's got 9 interceptions since week 10, and no one else in the league has more than 5. All of a sudden, Prescott can't stop giving the other team the ball. And the defense has slack too. The Cowboys, who for a while there I thought were like they had a real shot at winning the division, they had a shot at the bye week. They have fallen off dramatically in the last couple of weeks. And I know we make all the jokes about the same old Cowboys because it's what they've done every year since like 1996. But this is out of meme territory and into actually like a serious concern if you're a Cowboys fan. Right?
They have dropped from 30% to 21% in DVOA in 2 weeks.
That's
like this game was not as close as the final score by DVOA. Like Jacksonville has the much higher rating for this game than Dallas does. And Dallas has really dropped over the last couple of weeks. Now they're probably going to play Tampa Bay in the first round. Which, I don't know if I trust Dallas to win despite the problems that Tampa Bay is having right
No,
now.
but that is a great segue because the next topic here is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are playing very un-Tom Brady football. Career high 4 turnovers against the Bengals. The second time he's had 4 turnovers on 4 consecutive drives, and the first since 2001, when he spent most of the year being thought of as the guy who's just taking the field until Drew Bledsoe could come back.
Yeah. It's the first time Brady has ever lost at home when he had a 17-point lead. He was 89-0 coming into this one. This doesn't happen to Tom Brady football teams. It just doesn't. And now the Buccaneers have to run the table, or Brady's going to have his first ever losing record as a starting quarterback. This is not what he signed up for when he decided to come back for another season. No, when he unretired, the Buccaneers were conference favorites, or at least right up near the top of the list. And this has been the NFC South is a joke. It's embarrassing all the way around. The fact that the Panthers, who fire their head coach, have a real shot at winning this division is nonsense. The fact that the Saints and Falcons are still alive is crazy. It is still possible for all 4 teams to tie at 6-11. That is still on the table. In which case, the Carolina Panthers would be
the Panthers have the tiebreaker if that happens.
Yes.
Yeah.
And of course, there's nothing in this year I'm rooting for more than a 4-way tie at 6-11 because that is the ultimate chaos thing. The NFC champion, a double-digit lost NFC South champion, hosting the NFC East runner-up, just shows everything that's so great about the current playoff format.
I believe there has never been a 10-loss team in the playoffs.
That's
no,
correct.
There have been a handful of 7 and 9 teams, and I think they both won their playoff games.
They did because one was the Beastquake Seahawks, and the other was did the Washington football team win their first game 2020? I think they did.
I think it was a Panthers team. There was a Panthers team that they hosted a Cardinals team when Carson Palmer was hurt. I want to say that happened.
Yeah.
It's off the top of my head. I may be screwing up some details, but that sounds right.
Yeah.
I think Washington lost. Washington was 7-9 and played Tampa, and Tampa won.
Yeah.
That was when Tampa won the Super Bowl. Yes, there was
2014
also
Panthers.
the 7-8-1 Panthers. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, 7-8-1. Yeah.
It's
and by the way, Hitchhiker's Pie is right when he notes that Brady is still a top quarterback by a lot of advanced metrics, and their defense is 10th. But Brady has fallen off some in the last few weeks, and also their running game is horrific this year.
Disaster.
Yeah.
And they keep going for it. It's not only bad, but they use it a lot too. Like you think that at some point if something's not working, you do something else. But no, they seem to think that they still have to establish the run and win like that. And no, I mean you brought Brady back for a reason. You go until his arm falls off. At this point. Yeah.
Oh, well. So I guess none of the teams in the top of the NFC are really playing well right now because the Eagles got a win over a bad Bears team, but they did not necessarily look good in all aspects of the game doing it.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Hurts. To be fair, we now know that Jalen Hurts was hurt for the second half of this game, so we do know that. But he wasn't playing well in the first half either. He threw 2 interceptions in the first half against the Bears. He'd only thrown 3 all year up until that point. Those 2 interceptions, by the way, are more than the Bears had in their previous 6 games combined. So it's not like he was playing a stellar pass defense out there. Hurts has in case people haven't heard, Hurts has a separated shoulder, is in doubt for a Christmas Eve game against the Cowboys. This is mildly concerning. This is hopefully it's not concerning for anything but the Eagles in the regular season. They need one more game to clinch the bye. That's going to happen. I'm sure Gardner Minshew, if the worst comes to worst, can get them one more win at some point for the season. But Hurts is gimpy, and they had to put out all the stops to beat a Chicago Bears team which isn't going anywhere, which isn't doing anything, which is Justin Fields and a bunch of like parley tricks at this point in time.
Yeah. Justin Fields needs a little more than 200 yards to break Lamar Jackson's quarterback rushing record. Bears got nothing else to play for. Let's do one quarterback draw 20 times a game. Get him that record. Jalen Hurts sets more passing, rushing combo records. Third player in NFL history with 300-plus passing yards and 3+ rushing touchdowns in the same game, joining Dak Prescott in 2020 and Jack Kemp in 1963.
Jack Kemp, famous mobile quarterback.
There you go.
Yes.
Oh, you want? Here's a better one. Hurts is the 4th player with a dozen rushing touchdowns and a dozen passing touchdowns in the same year. He joins 2011 Cam Newton, mobile quarterback, 1976 Steve Grogan, and 1947 Spec Sanders, who was
I have never heard of.
Spec Sanders, halfback quarterback combo, crazy guy.
Grogan was what passed for a mobile quarterback in 1976, sub Bobby Douglas level.
Oh, yeah. Boy. Speaking of Bears quarterbacks who couldn't throw very well, oh boy.
Yeah. Well, we got one more note on versatile players here before we wrap things up. Taysom Hill scored again this week and now joins very select company.
Yeah, Taysom Hill now has, if you include the playoffs, he has double-digit passing, rushing, and receiving touchdowns for his career. And the last player to do that was Frank Gifford back for the Giants in the 50s. This Taysom Hill is a throwback to an earlier crazier time, and it's a lot better when they're using him as a crazy gimmick player than as their starting quarterback.
He would have been amazing in 1947.
Yeah,
yes, he would have been a multi-time MVP, multi-time champion.
Yes, I've totally turned the corner on Taysom Hill now. He's one of my favorite players to watch now that he's a gadget player. They're not pretending he's a full-time starting quarterback. But that is going to do it, I believe, for this week. Before we go, I want to say a big thank you to our friends at Underdog Fantasy, because you, the Football Outsiders reader / listener / watcher, you can play on Underdog Fantasy with us and double your first deposit up to $100 with promo code OUTSIDERS. Are your season-long fantasy teams floundering? Well, you can play Underdog's Battle Royale, a fast 6-round weekly fantasy football draft with easier chances to win than traditional daily fantasy sports sites. You can even win $50,000 if you grab first place, or try their pick'em games, where you can easily pick players' chances to go higher or lower than their projected stat lines. even in states where traditional prop betting currently isn't available. Underdog is the fastest growing fantasy site around. Join the fun over at underdogfantasy.com or download Underdog in the App Store and use promo code OUTSIDERS now to double your first deposit up to $100.
Before we go, let me just respond to a couple of these comments. Useful title says sprained shoulder, not separated. Yes, that is correct for Jalen Hurts. And Hitchhiker's Pie asks, who would America love more in the 50s, Tebow or Taysom Hill? I would love to have seen what it would have looked like if they had tried to turn Tebow into what they've done with Taysom Hill.
Absolutely. As a goal line threat, multi-purpose threat, Tebow could have been something.
He probably would have been a pretty good fullback if he had just been a fullback.
If he had just but like this kind of tight end / gadget quarterback thing, like I think Tebow would have been. I think he would have been Taysom Hill. I think he would have been useful.
He would have been useful. I don't think he has the arm Taysom Hill does, or had the arm Taysom Hill does, but there's definitely some similarities there. Well, thank you all for joining. I want to remind you all to sign up for FO Plus at footballoutsiders.com/subscribe. You can get NFL betting picks, fantasy advice, premium stats and articles, and an ad-free experience, which is a big deal. Last but not least, you can join us Saturday this week in the Football Outsiders Discord, and I suppose Sunday as well, for in-game conversation, every game going on. Join the fun, the Football Outsiders Discord channel. And that is going to do it for this week. I want to thank everyone for listening. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Brian. That was fun. We'll see you again in 7 days.